The 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse. Indian subjects its new Chief platform to the homegrown custom treatment to turn out the new Chief Bobber Dark Horse. Liberal blackout treatment adds another spice to the already custom-flavored bobber as it seeks to connect to the home job bikes of old. In spite of its attempt to channel the antique, the factory packs in lots of the modern with its Thunderstroke 116 engine and under-the-hood electronic wizardry that promise to help you keep the thing dirty side down. 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse Design. Step back to take it all in and you'll find the post-war motorcycle scene looking back at you. Like the rest of the new Chief lineup, the Bobber Dark Horse is built to channel the spirit of the post-war motorcycle scene, but it takes that look in a decidedly homegrown direction with its heavily chopped-down fenders, fat blackout-laced wheels, and mini-ape handlebar. Take a step back for a better look and you'll find the 40s looking back at you in the fat front end complete with beer can fork skirts that make it look fatter yet. Let your eyes play down the fall in the backbone to where it meets the rear shocks that also rock beer can covers, much like the earliest coil-over shock units, but that's not the end of it. While the bike has a proper yoke-style swing arm, the angle of the rear shocks leaves the BDH with a look that suggests the old rigid rear ends without going whole hog like Triumph with its own bobber from the Bonneville lineup or Harley-Davidson Softail. Sure, it's a cheap visual trick, but I love it all the same. In keeping with its old-school chops, the CBDH runs with a round Cyclops headlight housing ahead of a single round instrument housing, but that doesn't tell the whole tale. LED projectors modernize the headlight along with stock DRL emitters for 24-hour visibility. Instrumentation is bundled behind a color TFT touchscreen display with Indian's Ride Command infotainment system. High-rise hand positions join with forward controls and a 26-inch high solo saddle to put the rider in a comfortable windsock position underway with plenty of leverage at stops, even for short riders. LED lighting continues into the rear end, and in one final custom effort, the tag holder is offset low to the left side, showbike style, so as not to clutter up that chopped rear sheet metal. 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse Chassis. Tubular steel members make up the model family-specific frame that sets the stage for the Chief Bobber Dark Horse with geometry and an open steering head that gives the impression that the frame could have been raked and stretched just a skosh for yet another connection to old-school custom culture. The 29-degree angle of rake reinforces this illusion and couples with 5.2 inches of trail over a 64-inch wheelbase to give this machine stability and tracking in a crosswind. A set of 46mm RWU forks float the front end on fixed values with 5.2 inches of travel, while out back, dual-covered shocks support the rear end and dampen the swingarm motion with 3 inches of travel and adjustable preload as the only adjustment to be had. Wire wheels round out the rolling chassis, all in blackout paint of course, and they come lined with Pirelli Knight Dragon hoops in a 130/90ths ahead of a 180/65ths. Both in a 16-inch diameter for a nice fat contact patch front and rear. At 694 pounds wet, this is a lot of bike to keep under control, so it's a bit surprising, disappointing even, that it rolls with a single front brake. To be fair, the 300mm discs front and rear are close to the biggest available, and the 4-bore front caliper handles the hard work up front with all-around ABS protection as part of the stock equipment package. But I can't help but feel that dual binders would have been a better way to go. Front suspension, travel 46mm telescopic fork, 5.2 in, 132mm. 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse Drivetrain. The Thunderstroke 116 produces a whopping 120 pounds-o grunt at a low 2,900 revolutions per minute to give it one of the deepest torque wells available from a production engine. The real star of the show is absolutely found in the engine area, the Thunderstroke 116 powerplant. First, let's look at the visuals. Like its forebear, the TS-116 runs in a classic V-twin arrangement and channels the look of the old flatties with parallel pushrod tube pairs and faux cooling fins molded into the rocker box covers. It's impossible to overstate just how much this arrangement adds to the overall panache, and credit where it's due. The factory undoubtedly spent lots of time and resources to achieve this effect. A long stroke layout sees a 103.2 mm bore with a 113 mm stroke to give it a displacement of 116 cubic inches, 1890 cc, with an 11:1 compression ratio that will demand a steady diet of no less than high-octane road champagne to prevent knock, ping, run-on. Dual exhaust pipes are connected by a crossover tube for the pulse-sharing action that helps lower restriction in the exhaust while still preventing exhaust gas reversion, so you can count on smooth and efficient operation. A single 54 mm throttle body manages the induction for both jugs, but the final power delivery is modified by the ride modes feature that lets you dial in the power to suit the prevailing conditions. As one final comfort feature, the factory chucks on its rear cylinder deactivation system that kills the rear jug when idling at a stop to reduce the heat wash felt by the pilot. A gear-type primary drive sends power to the 6-speed transmission through a standard wet clutch pack with a whopping 120 pounds-o grunt on tap at a low 2,900 revolutions per minute to give it one of the deepest torque wells available from a production engine. Top speed is in the neighborhood of 115 miles per hour. Plenty fast for public travel. 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse price. MSRP is $19,000 for the base black smoke colorway. Price and color are inextricably linked. If you like your bikes like I like my coffee, black and strong, the base model Black Smoke may be for you with its $18,999 starting price. If you prefer your sheet metal in the gray titanium smoke or green sagebrush smoke, you can expect to cough up another 5 Benjamins. 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse competitors. There's no way around it. An American-style machine such as this demands a domestic competitor, so I went straight to the other U.S. motorcycle maker, Harley-Davidson, for its Fat Bob 114. Harley-Davidson Fat Bob 114. The Fat Bob carries a post-war look that springs from its own deep historical roots with a faux hardtail rear end that delivers a modern ride. Like the Indian mount, the Fat Bob carries a post-war look that springs from its own deep historical roots with a faux hardtail rear end that delivers a modern ride for riders of this second-generation softail. The sheet metal is cut down to the limits of functionality, just like a bobber of old, along with fat donuts fore and aft that reinforce the look. Too bad the Moco opted for cast wheels on a model that clearly calls for laced rims. Milwaukee spared little from its own blackout finish to make the Fat Bob nearly as dark as its Indian counterpart, save for the exhaust that rocks bronzed and drilled heat shields and brushed metal silencers. HD powers its entry with the 118 pound-foot, 1,868 cc Milwaukee 8114 that falls just a hair short of the grunt put out by the Indian. ABS is a constant across the board. But that's the limit of the Harley's electronic goodies to leave HD with no answer for Indian's Ride Command and Ride Modes feature. If you were expecting price to be a selling point, think again. The Fat Bob 114 starts at $18,799 in vivid black with a $19,199 sticker on its color option models. Read the full review of the Harley-Davidson Fat Bob 114. He said, "Since power, looks, and price are more or less locked in dead heat, I reckon brand loyalty becomes the dominant force when choosing between the new CBDH and the HD Fat Bob. That said, I gotta admit that Indian is really coming on strong since it was acquired by Polaris, mainly due to having access to a deep purse for R&D work. It paid off here, and I expect Indian to ramp up pressure on HD sooner rather than later," she said. My wife and fellow motorcycle rider, Alan Hinton, says, "I like the looks of the Chief Bobber Dark Horse, both for its Dark Horse features and for its bobberness. I don't really feel like it's a good city bike because the pull on the brake and clutch levers just wears me out, but someone with stronger and younger hands and forearms may disagree. Outside of city traffic, however, the Chief Bobber as a nice cruiser and sport mode on the Thunderstroke 116 makes for quite a thrilling ride." 2022 Indian Chief Bobber Dark Horse specifications.
If you liked this video, please share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.